going to move on to our next story. So, up in South Bend, St. Joseph County Councilors voted 7-2 to reject a proposal to rezone more than 1,000 acres of farmland near New Carlisle for a $12 billion data center after 10 hours of public testimony and debate, the decision coming shortly after 4 a.m. Despite promises of jobs and investment, opponents raised concern about water use, infrastructure strain, and the loss of the area's rural character, ultimately swaying a bipartisan majority. Supporters said the project could return in the future, but for now, the county put the brakes on another major big tech expansion. The area is already home to a massive Amazon data center project that has been under construction for a year on another 1,200-acre site. Now, Simon, one of the groups that was really pushing to move forward with this project were unions. There are a lot of construction jobs that are at stake in these data centers. Now, is opposition to data centers a political risk for Democrats with unions? Or does this just expose how little public investment we're offering as an alternative to these private mega projects?
Well, they look great on paper coming in from the perspective of, oh, yeah, there'll be construction jobs. But the reality is the data centers actually are going to serve a specific purpose across the country. It doesn't matter where the AI sits. The AI in these data centers is going to be harnessed by Fortune 500 companies and everybody else to downsize the workforce and create productivity. So we can say, okay, there's 50 jobs coming, there's 100 jobs coming in construction, but in the long term, we're going to be losing millions of jobs in the long term once these data centers come online and they start producing results for people. And this is the problem that the unions aren't necessarily aware of at this time, because, you know, corporate America is only looking to the next quarter to see what its profits are. I mean, that's the reality. Nobody's actually looking at, well, what's actually going to happen 10 years down the road? And I can't remember if it's this one. There's a 50-year tax moratorium. So the amount of money that should be coming back into the community, I think there was $4 billion in construction costs and $4 billion in property taxes abated. So there's $8 billion there that's immediately not going to come into the economy. And what you've got to look at is with any data center project that comes in, what are the net pluses and minuses? And Indiana Economic Development, which is the where most of this is being pushed through, they are just not aware of anything other than being taken out to dinner and being given a shiny meal and a handshake. A lot of the data centers don't make sense when you actually put it in perspective for the long term. I mean, we haven't even got to the water or electrical use, or the fact that the small nuclear reactors are how they want to power these things, which is a fun thing, since one, they don't exist right now. The taxpayer's on the hook for all the development costs, and Indiana is a focal point for this because one of the companies developing the small nuclear reactors is moving their headquarters to Indiana specifically to do this. So we are, again, we're the guinea pig. Not the guinea pig, the canary in the coal mine for another, tech experiment, and we know it's going to affect the water use. And the fact is, the data centers actually don't need to use water. That's in Europe. There's many data centers coming online that are self-contained, and they're not actually taking anything out of the local aquifer. So you got to make a long list of the pros and a long list of the cons and see what works out. Now, if these things are being built and they're contributing to local infrastructure, like one of the data centers in North London, they're providing a new bus route, they're upgrading the streets, they're providing a lot of physical infrastructure for people to get around the data center that they're building. And so what is it that they're actually bringing to the local community? And I mean, the reason they're being put in rural sites is because there isn't anything to give to a local community. There's only, oh, it's a bare piece of land, we can do what we want on it. So predatory capitalism at its finest.
Yeah. And this debate is going to continue. I mean, these things aren't going away. It's going to be on us to
Can I just say one thing
for our favor? Yeah, Leslie.
You asked about the unions and is it going to hurt Democrats? Well, I think that lately the Democrats have been fighting for the unions, but the unions were not voting for the Democrats. I think it's been very difficult for many Democratic candidates to get endorsements from the unions, and only a few candidates would get publicly acknowledged by the unions. The unions used to vote overwhelmingly Democratic, but in Indiana, they currently have not been. Now, maybe that will switch back, but, I don't think so. I think that overall, we have to look at, like Simon says, really the health of the entire state. And this extraction capitalism is not good in the long term. It is benefiting the corporation to the expense of everyone else. And giving them all these tax abatements is ridiculous. It is like cutting off your feet. It doesn't make any sense. It's just like, Chuck says, greed. It is just greed. And we need to push back against that. And, hopefully that will work out for us.
Yeah, and
did I see a finger there, Chuck? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to echo in on because Simon, we're all hitting on the same kind of point that the investment in where these things are going in, like especially in rural counties, when they think that there's no infrastructure to improve upon, that's actually kind of a fallacy if those local government agencies don't push back against that, because there are roads, there are sanitary needs, there are drinking water needs, there are all these things, and I can say this because in Hancock County we got a bunch of stuff happening here all the time, and that's one of the problems we're facing is how do we do these things and support people in a healthy and safe way? And if we're going to have these big projects coming in, instead of giving them an abatement, make them invest in the infrastructure. Hey, upsize this main, run this main up to here, serve this subdivision with sanitary and water for us, or get us up there. Those things can be done. The problem is the public has to force their people to advocate for those things. And I think that's where we need to work on. We've shown some life with that here recently. And I don't want to jump ahead of the ball game here, but it can be done. It can be done.
Yeah, it really comes down to do these tools work for us or do we work for them? We could do a whole show just on this, but unfortunately, I have to move on. With our last kind of. Oh, you're killing me, Simon. Go ahead.
Yeah, because we're talking. The question was political risk for Democrats with unions, and I don't think it's a risk. Because we're in a point in time when so much has been demolished, so much budgets have been cut. We're at a place where we need imagination, and we could, a data center could come in. It doesn't have to use the water. Now think about if all the heat was pumped into the roads right now to clear snow. It's little things like that. We have to be imaginative and think, well, we've got all this stuff here. How can we benefit from it? Rather than it just being a net loss to the community. So I'll just leave that there.
We're going to have an imagination Christmas this year, Simon.
Yep.